1-800-357-0910. You can call me all morning long. You can also tweet me at Gary G. Sutton on the LeBoutelier interview. You can, let's see, you can get me at gary.sutton@cumulus.com. You can go to WSBA, newsradio910.com. So, I mean, you can catch us a whole lot of different ways, you see. And Facebook.com/910WSBA. So what more could you want? And we have all kinds of things up there from past interviews and so forth. We also have this morning our Congressman. Where else can you find him on a Monday morning? Congressman Scott Perry from the 4th Congressional. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
I'm well, Gary. I'm thinking about this oceanfront property in Dover.
Was that a nice idea? See?
Well, it is in the way it changed all our the character of all our homes in the area. If you have oceanfront property.
I know. Well, you'd be okay. I mean, you're just a little bit beyond me. You'd be back a few streets from the beach, but I mean, it's okay. You're up in Dillsburg. But just a thought. It was just one of those lunatic thoughts that I get every now and then. But I'm tired of the snow. I'm not a snow guy. I just it's pretty once. Give me a little bit of a dusting. I've had it for the winter. That's it. Let's move on. Yeah.
Well, most of us, we kind of like it. We're coming into November and December and Christmas and all that stuff. In January, the farm show, you kind of like, yeah.
Okay.
But by the end of January, most of us, I think, are like, okay, that's it.
Put it away. Yeah.
Winter's going to go on for another month and a half, whether we like it or not.
Especially if you believe these Rodentis gigantuses that we're talking about over the weekend, alias the groundhog. So there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, were you part of this retreat last week over in Cambridge, Maryland?
I was. I went down to hear what we had gotten accomplished and what the plan would be for the upcoming year, and to, quite honestly, to add my thoughts when it's appropriate.
What do you think about it? I had a couple thoughts from afar, obviously. I wasn't in Cambridge. The only thing I know about Cambridge, when I go down that route to go to Ocean City, Maryland, or down to Salisbury, my wife likes to shop in Salisbury, they always have backups there. That's the one thing I noticed with Cambridge. But it's a nice little town, a beautiful place. But yeah,
it seems like a nice little town. I mean, we get off the bus and go in the hotel, and
that's it.
Anything after that, except the inside of the hotel, which was very nice and all. But the schedule is really fast. A couple of points I want to make right off the bat.
Sure.
I know there's been some reports out there that this is paid for by lobbyists or whatever. Look, I don't know what. I know that I paid $1,600. I think was the bill for me and my wife and my 2 kids to go. So we pay our way, and it comes right out of your pocket for that stuff. The other thing is, there was no goofing around. I mean, we went from one thing to the next, and you missed some meals literally because the schedule was pretty robust. Our kids were down there, and they stay at kind of a babysitting area, so to speak. And they like it there more than they like being with their folks, I guess, because they keep them entertained and do a lot of fun things that you don't get to do at home or what have you. But it's a packed schedule, and it goes from morning till night. And good stuff where you weigh in on what the future is for the House of Representatives and our agenda. And it's an opportunity for you to speak up in front of the entire conference on why you think we should be doing things or why we shouldn't be doing things, and how it's going, and I think that's valuable.
Let me throw something out at you here, Congressman. I'm going to let you kind of take the agenda and adapt it to what I'm going to say. There are a lot of people out there, this particular guy included, who think that the Republicans have been way too nice on things like Benghazi, the IRS, health care, although obviously no Republicans voted for health care, so in that regard, I agree. But a lot of us think that your leader, John Boehner, has become gutless in the sense that he will not call for any kind of investigation of Benghazi the way he should. He allows the kind of tripe we heard in the O'Reilly interview last night to continue to go on. He is afraid to take the president on, that he somehow feels a little bit guilty about who the Republicans are right now and wants to have a nicer, gentler Republicans, i.e. compassionate conservatism again. And a lot of us are sitting back right now really, really, really disappointed with the Republican Party, and not because they're not nice, because they don't seem to starkly stand for different options when the country is starkly standing for different options on how we should go about doing our business. So there, I throw that out to you as a way maybe to get into what you guys actually talked about there. If you got down to some turkey.
Yeah, that's and that's exactly the tenor of the conversation for many of us there. Let me start out with saying I wish they would quit calling it a retreat. As you know, I'm a military guy, and that's just sets the wrong tone.
You never give back the ground you took, right?
That's right. But I guess the speaker is in a difficult position, herding us cats around. And I will tell you, I was disappointed in some statements recently that he made on I guess it was Leno. Kind of saying the Republican Party or the conference in the House of Representatives had caused all these problems, or admitting to whatever Jay's narrative was, which I find, just completely devoid of the facts. I mean, it takes two to tango here, and maybe we have our part in things, but the other side had its part in things too, and so that disappoints me greatly. I think where we are is that the paid pundits, the paid pollsters out there continuously tell guys like Boehner that, look, you can beat up on the president, and you can be intractable and all those things, and you're going to have about 5% of the American people appreciate you, the people that watch O'Reilly, the people that watch Hannity and listen to Glenn Beck, but 95% of the people are going to think that you're a nut job and that you're off the mark. And I think he hears that every single day. And I think that he fashions his statements and some of his actions based on that. And we try and tell him that, maybe we need to change how we say some things, but the facts are the facts. And, Obama doesn't always pick the right terminology either. And, but we need to do our job, which is to support the citizens that elected us. And they're not happy with us right now. So
Scott, let me just interject right there. I don't want. Hate to interrupt you because I want you to keep on going with what I offered. But I guess one of the things that bothers a lot of people. First of all, the president's going to get away from it with it because he's got pretty much the mainstream media on his side. That's a fact. People can argue that. It's a fact. But when people ask questions, we used the other day a great example. We were talking about Governor Romney. And I said, remember when Governor Romney asked a question about Benghazi of the president in that one circle in the round debate? Yeah. And the president came back with, well, I said terrorism. And, of course, Candy Crowley jumped in and said he didn't. And if I were Governor Romney, and I think more Republicans have to take this tact. This is just take it back to your colleagues if you'd like. Maybe they'll laugh at it. Maybe they won't. Here would be the tact I'd take. We're not going on. I'm not answering one more question until the president answers this question. I want to hear an answer to the question. And, Candy, you stay out of it and don't give him extra support like you just did. Now, where is that kind of tenor coming from the Republicans where they stand in there and say, okay, we're done with this interview until I get an answer to that question? You take it back to the president. You ask him that question and see if you get a satisfactory answer and see if he says the same thing and you stick around and listen for the answer. Republicans, it seems to me, in a very respectful way, but in a very stern way, need to start to stand up and do that kind of thing. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, Gary, but apparently, and I don't know, I don't think it's our area. You got to remember, too, that where we are is a fairly conservative area, even compared to 100 miles east or west of here. So where I think that would be great, according to all these folks, most Americans find that combative and unnecessary, and they see, and we kind of fall into that trap of Republicans are intractable. It's got to be all their way or the highway. And I think that Romney and the Speaker are trying to avoid that kind of that kind of reputation.
But again, I think you can do that in a way that is to the point, is stern, is respectful, and yet says, listen, I'm not going to, nothing else really matters here until you answer this question. And so you come back to me once you get an answer from the other side, and you start making that a unified approach. And I've got news for you, and do it in a respectful. I'm not saying be disrespectful at all. I'm just saying I'm not going to go on until this gets answered. And
I guess the it's in the eye of the beholder. What's respectful to you is not respectful to someone else. And where this is really important to me, important to you, and I think important to a lot of our constituents, the other thing is we keep hearing is that these things, Benghazi, the IRS, immigration, they're not important to anybody like the economy and jobs and making a living. These things are,
they are important
that Republicans keep harping about. People on the street don't care about that. It's akin to saying, We want to work on the foundation. We as Republicans want to work on the foundations of government truth, honesty, and our fiscal situation. Meanwhile, the roof on this house is burning. That would be the jobs and people's livelihoods, and we need to focus on that.
And I don't disagree with you that that's number one on the list, but I am saying, you mentioned it right there, truth and honesty are the bedrock on which we'd like to think our whole society, which we think is the greatest one in the world, is built. And if truth and honesty are still hanging out there without answers to those questions on things like the IRS and Benghazi and so forth, you need to have blue ribbon panels, not the panels that are headed by Darrell Issa or anything like that, because Darrell Issa has never finished one of these yet. The idea is get somebody out there that's going to do that off to the side, a blue ribbon panel, while you're going about the job of trying to make sure the economics is better. I totally agree with you, but you can set it up in a way that's going to be much, much better than what we're doing right now. So anyway, go on. I interrupted you too long there. Thank you so much.
No, listen, Gary, I think you're right. I think that conservatives, Republicans for sure, are frustrated because while we agree with you on the principles of which you just laid out, apparently we have been unable to formulate the language and the demeanor or the place or the time or whatever to do that where we seem like we're asking the right questions the right way and being effective and not being seen like we're intractable, focused on only one thing, and being seen as my way or the highway people, which, I don't think we are.
But I don't think it has to be my way or the highway either. But the fact is there's principles that you have to stand for. And out here on Main Street, I guess, and you're out on Main Street a lot. I'm not telling you something you don't know. You're a regular guy that way. So, out here on Main Street, you have some very different ideas on how to go about doing things. And yet when you get to Congress, it seems like there's not much separation. I mean, there's not really a lot other than when you say, okay, I'm not voting for health care, I am voting for health care.
Right.
But that's about it. A lot of this other stuff. And so we wonder why Republicans aren't markedly higher in their consideration by the American people when you look at the polls, and the Democrats, it's because they don't have markedly different ideas, at least to the perception of the American people, and maybe it's not just perception.
Yeah, I feel like we have very starkly different ideas. Now,
I know maybe,
you do. Maybe I'm a little different than some in the conference, but
I think you are.
Now, and there are things that come out of the conference that I refuse to vote for. Listen, I voted for one of the farm bills, but I wouldn't vote for the last farm bill because I think it didn't address any of the issues on both the ag welfare side or the other welfare side. And that came with Republican votes out of a Republican House, so for me there are very big differences. But I got to recognize too, I'm one of 435, and we got to get things accomplished with the other side as
Understood.
well. So. But there's something that's looming that we're all going to deal with, which is the debt ceiling.
Right.
And to me, it's like it is to you, Gary. It's like it is to most people. It's saying we want an extension or an increase in our credit card spending. And the president has said already, I will not negotiate. But yet somehow the Republicans are seen as the intractable ones. Yeah. And I'll give you that example. If you can explain to me why we're the intractable ones when that is the narrative coming out of the White House, and the White House gets absolutely no criticism for that kind of attitude. How do we combat that? That is our frustration.
That's a great point. And you know how I'd combat it? Just, again, throwing out an idea here from Main Street. But the president says, I want a clean bill. And you're right. It's absolutely unfair that they don't say a word to him. And he always comes back and says, well, America's got to pay its bills and so forth. Do something like this. Come back to them and say, hey, listen. And you just made a great example, by the way. You said, hey, it's a credit card. If you owe a lot of money on your credit card right now, you go to the credit card company and say, will you extend my limit, please? Could you extend my limit a little bit here and give me a little bit more credit along the way? And what's the credit card company say? Are you kidding me? Are you nuts?
You're not able to pay your current bills, so why would we allow you to rack up more bills that you can't pay? And that's exactly what we're asking for. And again, for people like me, we find that just immoral, and that's leading to the demise of our nation, in my opinion. But yet, this president keeps on saying, I must have a clean debt ceiling bill. I will not negotiate. And instead of the American people supporting any negotiation at all, they support the president in that regard. Yeah. And so Republicans or conservatives are left wondering, Okay, well, where does that leave us? And even the people, I think what the people are saying is look, this is an important issue. We don't want to continue to spend money we don't have, but we don't want you, because our option, let's be clear about our option. Our option is essentially either do that or shut down this government.
Right.
So we don't like that option either. So do something, but not that. Well, unfortunately, that's the only option the Republican conference has. It's either pass a clean bill or send something over that the president refuses to address, and then we go into default. So now pick your poison.
We need to take a break. We're going to come right back, though. But, one of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, Scott, is, how do you explain to people about responsibility when you're watching irresponsibility being practiced regularly, right?
Right in front of you.
There you go. We'll come right back. We're going to talk more. Congressman Scott Perry with us here this morning from the 4th Congressional on the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. The Republicans had a retreat last week. What did they talk about? Who do they want to be when they grow up? We'll ask the Congressman again when we come back here on the Gary Sutton Show. WSBA News Times 950. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on a snowy Monday morning here on WSBA. Be careful out there, please. They say, 45 miles an hour out in the majors. And I'll tell you, I drove in this morning. I kept it in second gear most of the way there. And you might just take it easy, okay? The other thing, don't crouch up on people all the time. You're not going anywhere any faster. We're with Congressman Scott Perry this morning from the 4th Congressional. Scott, I'm pretty hot on immigration reform, and the standards for immigration reform document to a lot of a pub this past week. Tell us what actually was presented there at the retreat and your reaction to it.
Well, the speaker put out a kind of a draft of what the tenets of immigration reform that we would propose in the House would be, from border security to reforming the visa program to a pathway to legalization and all that kind of stuff. And we had a session dedicated and devoted only to that. And it was, of course, members only making remarks to the speaker and the leadership team about. Now, the speaker asked for comments on the draft.
Right.
Unfortunately, listen, we get the speaker and the leadership here. We're going to comment not only on the draft, but is this the right time? Should we, not? I guess what I'm saying is things other than just on the draft, which I think frustrated the leadership. But we don't care. We're members of Congress and we're governing. We're speaking our mind. So, for me, it had some good things, but it had some things that I didn't find palatable, even though there might be a pathway to legalization. And what we're talking about is for these folks that, in my mind anyhow, and this is one of the things that needs to be clarified, is the folks that were brought here by their parents. So the parents came illegally, and you were either born in this country or you were brought here when you were 2 years old or 5 years old or something like that, and you don't know. So a pathway to legalization for those folks, because they really didn't have any say in the matter.
Right.
Now, with that, do they still have voting rights? And certainly the ones that came here illegally. So you came here illegally as an adult. They want you to be able to pay a fine and take some courses and so on and so forth. But will you be allowed to vote? A vote is very sacred, and we have to understand, in my mind and a lot of people's mind, these people broke the law. So those were some issues, and continue to break the law. So those were some of the issues, at least for me. A lot of the conference says that we have to do this because the American people are clamoring for it. But I would also tell you that there were plenty of the conference that said, wait a minute, this is like on 3% of the people's radar. Most people are concerned about their economic fortunes, the way this country's going. And this isn't really on anybody's radar as a number one issue. And so, with all due respect, why are we doing this now with a president that chooses to enforce laws partially or only that benefit what he sees as important?
Great point. And bail him out. And you basically bail him out for the things he should deal with right now, which do occupy a majority of the people's. Not that this isn't important. I think it is important. I think down the line. But you know what? When you look at the president right now on Obamacare, when you look at the president right now on the economy, when you look at the president now on regulations, the threats about going around behind your back, I mean, that's kind of tough. Scott, we have about a minute left here. I wanted to get maybe some of your thoughts, too. You said you had some different thoughts than people maybe at the retreat on some other things. Just wanted to have you kind of machine gun those if we could.
Well, I know that for one thing, one gentleman stood up and said, look, the carpenters, the trade unions, all those folks want to be with us, but we keep picking on them, and please stop picking on them. And I had to stand up and say, Look, the Davis-Bacon, if what you're talking about there is the federal job law,
right?
Where we pay folks on the highways and so on and so forth to do that work, hasn't been changed since 1939 at all. Acting like that doesn't need some updating and some revising and reforming is crazy. We need to get to it. That's important. Healthcare. We must vote on something. We must stand for something.
Right.
None of us like Obamacare. We're concerned about how it's happening and what it's doing to the American people, but we must show them what they're for, not only what we're against them. We must show them very...
It couldn't be more right now. Unfortunately, I'm right at a hard break. We're going to have to run. I really appreciate you being with us this morning. It's never enough time. Let's do it again soon. Thanks,
Gary. You be safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman.